Welcome to Lean Into Excellence, a Workstream Consulting podcast. I'm Liz Crescetti,
And I'm Marco Bonilla.
and we will be your hosts as we embark on our continuous improvement journey. This is a Workstream Consulting podcast, and everyone might be wondering, what is Workstream Consulting? Who are they? What are they all about? Is it just another consulting group? And I'll say, no, it's not. Workstream has been around for over 15 years, so it's not something that just popped up overnight. We have 8 master black belts that are, I like to call our secret sauce. Marco, would you consider yourself the secret sauce of Workstream Consulting?
High caloric secret sauce, but yes.
We have, I always say we're small but mighty. We have 8 master black belts, and they have each over 30 years industry experience. So they've been around the block. They've seen some stuff, as I like to say, um, in pretty much every industry you can imagine. Don't you think, Marco? We've got everyone from manufacturing to automotive to defense to
Healthcare to uh, pharmaceutical. I mean, we could go
medical
on and on.
device. Yeah, it's just
Medical device, yeah.
they've seen it all.
Semiconductors, etc. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they've seen it all. So Workstream, like I said, it's a small but mighty group. Our founder, Chuck Gillis, he's actually going to be on a future episode. I think we're going to be able to drag him in on a future episode, and he can kind of give a little bit more of a backstory. But yeah, we're really excited. We're going to be, focused on the theme of process improvement, continuous improvement, and just kind of making it conversational and bringing in experts and giving you some just useful information, and we're going to try and have have some fun while we're doing it. But um just to kind of kick things off, we have, myself and Marco. Who are we? What are we about? Why are you listening to us in the first place? I'll let Marco go first and give you a little background on him. So Marco, if you want to just jump in and introduce yourself.
So absolutely. So again, my name is Marco Bonilla. I've been with Workstream for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I think I lost some time there with COVID. So my background was in the semiconductor space. I spent over 22 years as a new product development engineer with continuous improvement responsibilities. I received my black belt from Tyco International and then received my master black belt from BAE Systems.
Nice.
What else can I tell
Very
you?
nice.
Yeah, so a couple extra things. So my background's in electrical engineering. I also have an MBA from here in Boston, Massachusetts, from Northeastern University. And I also am an adjunct professor at several universities, undergrad and grad programs.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm excited to do this with you, Marco.
So am
Excited
I.
to
I'm very
embark
excited.
on this journey. And my background, I'm Liz Crescetti. My whole spiel, my background, I've been in medical device for well over 13 years. And I'm on the business development side of Workstream. And generally, I'm just going to keep the train on the tracks here. So as as soon as we're moving forward, I'm trying to keep us on the right path, because we certainly can derail. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that we are running a smooth process.
I
Right,
think
right,
you're, I
Marco?
think I think you're aiming those comments towards me. I think because there's only two of us here. So
There's only 2, but we are going to have future guests very soon,
right.
and we all know what that can bring in. All right, so you've learned a little bit about us. So we're going to just jump in and discover, what is continuous improvement. Um, I think a good part to start at is kind of, what is it not? So, Marco, if you want to kind of divulge and let the audience know your thoughts
Yes.
on.
So absolutely. So one of the things we need to discuss is that um, most people, when they hear continuous improvement or some of these frameworks that go along with continuous improvement, they think of manufacturing operations and cutting cost initiatives, which include cutting employees. So
Mhm.
this cannot be further from the truth. So continuous improvement can be implemented anywhere in a business, including non-technical areas. Though the byproduct usually, but not always, is manifests as cost savings, the goal is never to eliminate headcount. In fact, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and we'll talk about that. We'll do a deeper dive further along the way in another episode.
Yeah, that makes complete sense because I know, many people had mentioned before when you'd bring up a subject like this, they right away think, oh, reduction. They just think workforce. They don't think, you know, waste or, you know, there's so many things that you can reduce
Exactly.
instead of
Exactly.
headcount. And it's just everyone just goes there immediately, like, oh, they're gonna, you know, get rid of me or they're gonna shrink our department. Um, it's like you said, it could not be further from the truth. So I appreciate that.
So there's a lot of angst amongst individuals who work for companies who start hearing the rumors of continuous improvement coming in through their company, right?
Mhm.
And it's been created actually by supervisors and managers, and to some degree, probably from the accounting departments, right? Because their first idea of improving the bottom line is removing headcount, right?
Yeah. Or
Again,
reducing cost. How can we reduce
yeah,
cost?
right, and that actually hurts more than helps. And
Mhm.
again, we won't get into it too deeply because we need to really kind of scope out the kind of the truths behind continuous improvement and why supervisors and higher ups should really understand that, you know, using these tactics to lean out the process by eliminating people is going to hurt them long term.
Mhm. Absolutely. Here's a question for you. Who owns process improvement? Who
Great
does that
question.
who does that fall under? Who would be the best person to take on this role or this initiative?
Well, it's a great question, and I usually use this analogy with some of my students in class. You know, so not to sidestep the question too far, but this is just in comparison, right? So
Mhm.
in a company, there are people dedicated for marketing, and there are people dedicated for sales, right?
Yep.
We know who they are, but I always tell people that everyone in a company is responsible for revenue, right? Regardless of your role. If your roles and responsibilities don't aim or align with revenue generating activities,
Mhm.
then directly or indirectly, you're non value added, right?
Yep.
Again, marketing and sales, they own revenue. I mean, they own the sales, you know, the generation of revenue, but we all do in a company. Same thing with continuous improvement, right? So there
Mhm.
are people in a company that will be assigned quality assurance engineers and other titles.
Mhm.
Everyone in a company is owns continuous improvement, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Everything from the top down. We're talking from leadership down to people in the trenches. Everyone should incorporate some continuous improvement into how they operate on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone in some way needs to be on board because a lot of these initiatives will kick off and if you don't have buy-in from every avenue within the company or the department, it's going to go south quick. I was recently talking to someone in healthcare who was putting an initiative forward, and they said their biggest roadblock was leadership because leadership just they weren't bought in and they weren't supporting the initiative. And without them doing that, it fell apart. And I just think, like you said, everyone's involved in it to some degree. It just, you need to have that buy in as low to as high within the company as possible to really own it and to bring it to fruition and have it be a success. So I completely agree about that.
You know what I think it comes down to is empowering the people who are responsible for their roles and responsibilities, right? So as you know, when you command people to do things, they'll do it, but they're not going to be happy about it. And that's the same with continuous improvement, right? So it does start with leadership at the top to
Mhm.
change the culture. You have to change the culture, but you need to express the empowerment part, right? You need to give those that do the work the voice, and the voice to actually be able to change things without having to go through hoops.
Exactly. It's a crazy small thing called communication that can actually can actually make an impact. What? That's crazy.
Yeah, and you don't want it to be a one and done either, right? You want this
No,
to be
no,
a
this is a
step that
culture you're setting forth because if you're just
exactly,
gonna do like one project and call it a day, it's to me, I think it's like you said, it's a culture shift. You're now enabling this new behavior that's going to not just be one project, it's going to be how we do things moving forward.
exactly, and you want people always considering how can I do my job better, or how can I communicate up and downstream to make the flow more efficient, right? It's not one and done. Nothing
Yeah,
stays static. If it does stay static, eventually it's going to go back to what it was.
exactly. Okay, so we talked about what is not continuous improvement and who owns it. But what is continuous improvement?
Well, first of all, and this is a strong opinion, it's a mindset, right? So, first thing we need to acknowledge is that we can constantly improve product, services, and processes. And if you have that mindset, at least distributed across culturally, it makes it a lot easier for people to be aware that we can always improve our processes, right? And product and services. Does it mean it has to be monumental change? No, right? So if you've been kind of in that mindset and you can be making incremental improvements along the way. It's this, as an analogy, it doesn't have to be a home run. You just got to get on base, right? All these bases,
Start small.
yeah, yeah, just get on base, right?
Because sometimes when it's a huge undertaking, it can turn people off. They're like, "Oh, it's going to be so much work." Whereas if you just do small incremental steps every day, it makes a major,
Yeah,
impact over
yeah,
time.
you don't want to turn it into a science project, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
there are some complicated things to address, absolutely, and it might take longer. But on a daily event, there's so many things you can do to improve your environment, the products, the services that you provide customers, and you can, and not just the customer side. And one thing people forget is you're trying to improve the relationship between yourself and the customer and your supply chain, right? So it doesn't just go upstream to the customer; it also goes back downstream. So um, it really important, right? You're trying to create an environment that can produce more good than bad.
Yeah, and you had said something earlier that really stuck out is everything is a process. Everything. Just think of just your daily life, how you go about things. It's everything is a process. And
Everything
then
is
you
a
had
process.
yeah, said, remember that and then you'll be mindful of how the process is going to impact your end goal. So, I just think that's so important to understand because like you said, we're not trying to create a huge science project, but just understanding everything that you're doing is a process. And when you have that mindset, you're kind of thinking all the steps that go into it and how can I make it better? How can I make it more efficient? And in the long run, it's going to work out and it's going to be better for you and everyone else.
Exactly, exactly. And just as a comparison, if anyone who's listening has children, getting them to
Mhm.
school in the morning, the process of waking them up and getting them ready for school and getting them to school, that's a process, right?
Marco, you are reading my mind because that's literally what I was thinking about in the back of my mind when you were talking about this,
Yeah,
is the process of waking my children up, getting them dressed, getting them fed, getting them out the door. I'm gonna say there's a lot of variability there because you don't know what type of mood they're gonna be in when they wake up, and that can greatly affect the
I don't
process.
even know what type of mood I'm going to be when I wake up, right? And they and they
Oh,
and they
it's
and they
true.
just don't
It's
want they
true.
just don't want to play nice, right, with our schedule. They just think they have all day, so they want to do things in order, out of order, upside down, inside out, right?
Every day is a new day because it is not the same process day in, day
It's
out
not, but it should
at
be.
all.
But it should be, right?
It
I
should
I
be
tried drawing a process map to my daughter, but at 5 years old, it just wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't sticking.
clicking.
Yeah, yeah. I thought she was trying to be
Like, how do you not understand this? You pull out the whiteboard in her bedroom as she's going to bed.
exactly.
This is what's going to happen when you
Yeah,
wake up.
I thought she was trying to be difficult, but maybe there's an age
Could be
gap.
that she's just 5 years
Yeah, it
old.
might be because she's 5 years old, but everything's a process, even to them.
I think maybe if we create characters within the process improvement, whether it's Encanto or Frozen, maybe we'll be able to get through a little bit, get their attention a little
That's
bit
not
more. So maybe we'll try that
that's
next
not a
time.
bad idea. You know what? I didn't go that route because I thought she'd be able to meet me halfway, but I think the age gap is too much. So I think you're right. I think going down the Frozen path, using Frozen might do the trick.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you agree that problem solving plays a pivotal role in driving continuous improvement?
Absolutely. So one of the things we need to appreciate that we're all natural problem solvers from the day we're born, right? So, you know, at the end of the day, we all want to feel accomplished at whatever we do, personal life, work life, whatever. But when systems are the issues from completing our tasks, we find ways around it, right? So our natural sense is if I need to get this done, I need to figure out a way how to get it done around the bottlenecks that are in front of me, right? So, this becomes a norm after a while when the current processes and systems are in kind of a no-win situation, right? So that's my personal opinion about this, Liz. One of the things that is frustrating is that supervisors and managers must empower those reporting to them to be able to fix or improve the status quo, right? Because supervisors and managers want results. If you want results, you need to empower the people who do the job to get the results you're looking for in the best way possible, right? So
Yeah.
it's just it's a necessity to empower those that are doing the job.
Yeah. And I think it's important to shift their mindset. I think a lot of times, leadership or upper management, it's easy to put band-aids on problems and kind of have a workaround. But once you put too many band-aids on it, it's going to implode. And so we really need to shift that mindset from reactive to proactive. And I think initially, like you had said before, like training and getting, setting the stage initially, yeah, it might take some effort and some cost, of course, as you're investing in your workforce and you're training them. But it's much better to handle it on the front end versus having to fix the problem later on that would cost more most of the time and also tie up a lot of
Yeah,
resources at
yeah.
that time.
There's a couple of things you said, and I want to point out. One is, um, and it's an investment, right? It's not a cost. People need to get away from the thought of cost.
Yep.
If you want to improve a company, you need to invest in people and facilities, infrastructure, et cetera, but especially the people, right? Because they're the ones that are going to make the biggest difference long term. And empowering your workforce is a happy workforce, right? They feel valued and their voice is heard. And again, to emphasize about the investment, yes, there's dollars involved and there's time involved. People don't just wake up one day and say, I know how to fix this problem without being given the tool sets, the proper tool sets. Again, we're natural problem solvers. We'll get to the end goal, but it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be effective, and it's not going to be efficient, right?
Yep. Okay. So, Marco, can you summarize kind of the key takeaway that you want our audience to leave this podcast with today?
All right. So, first of all, as we discussed earlier, continuous improvement is not the responsibility of someone else's, right? So, that's number one. Two, get comfortable in the mindset. It's going to assist you in improving the environment you currently control, and it will create opportunities for your career. Third, everything is a process. If you can remember this, then you will always be mindful of how the process impacts your end goal. And lastly, we're all problem solvers, Liz. If we want to convert our current state process to future state improvements, we need tools to be more effective and efficient. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary solution.
Everything is a process. I love it. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our first ever podcast. We are going to have episodes every other week, at least to start. And we will have subject matter experts coming on, or as I said it just a few moments ago, subject matter. the,
Subject
the
matter.
Boston accent might come out, and I apologize ahead of time. But we will have subject matter experts coming on our next episode, and pretty much I would say about 90% of our episodes are going to have one of our either master black belts or a key opinion leader in the industry come on and give a little info about what topics they like to discuss in the process improvement in the Six Sigma world. So we are very excited. Like I said, every other week. And make sure to like and subscribe so you always know when the latest episode drops. So we are very, very excited to go on this journey. Let's do it.
Let's do it.